All right. So, welcome to the Red Road East. I am your host, this Truth Seeker. Oh, man. And today we are continuing this long conversation about Marcus Garvey. I really didn't expect it to go this long. However, it doesn't surprise me because when you're talking about a central figure like Marcus Garvey, it's not one that you could just gloss over. And remember, he had the largest movement among our people. So there's a lot of little fine details and particulars, okay, that you have to cover. All right. So I'm going to give about a minute or two for people to join in, for a few more people to join in, and we'll get started. Okay. So I'm going to play some music in the meantime, and then we will start. Right. Okay. So give about one more minute, and then we'll get on with it because there's a lot to cover. And even in this presentation here, I'm not going to be able to cover everything, but I'm going to stick to the time frame, which is going to be like 30, 35 minutes. Okay. Because I have so much to do today that I'm not going to be able to, and I have a class later on, so I'm not going to be able to do this presentation for an extended period of time. Give me 1 second. Okay, give 1 more minute. Trying to get at least about 10 people in here. And for anyone who is nice enough to leave a donation, I'm going to leave a link in the chat. Okay, and it's right there in the chat. Now let's see who we have in here. Okay, we got Firebird in the house. You, Firebird. My godmother, Firebird Grey Wolf, in the house. And I got cousin. What's up, Awanasa? Yeah, she appreciates the fact that I'm being thorough. And I like to be thorough because I don't like to put misinformation out there. And also, it's important to, one thing you got to remember is that we have a rich history, a rich oustory, okay, of heroes and sheroes, okay, heroes and sheroes. And we don't want to tarnish our legacy by putting misinformation about those who came before us. Okay? We live in the best and worst of times with the advent of the internet. And why do I say that? I say that because, as I mentioned before, when I was coming up, there was no internet and all of this modern technology and stuff, no PCs, no personal computers, and things of that nature. Okay. So we had to do research. You had to go to the library, you know, or you went to the bookstore and you bought books. Okay. And that's how you acquired, your information. You went to museums. Nowadays, being that everything is at the press of a button, you don't have to do that anymore. However, you also set yourself up for obtaining misinformation. Okay? Anybody can create a wiki page. However, does that mean that the information is accurate? No, it doesn't. Okay? So there's a lot of information flowing. Anybody can create a YouTube channel. And the internet, as a good brother Obashango said, is that the internet has given a platform for idiots. So any idiot can get up and create a platform and just talk, okay, and have a large following, okay. So with the advent of the internet, Google, and all that, you can just pull up information that is inaccurate. And then what happens is misinformation goes viral, okay. Misinformation goes viral very quickly, okay. So you have a lot of information circulating about Marcus Garvey, but most of the people who are talking about Marcus Garvey have never done extensive research on Marcus Garvey. Most of the people talking about Marcus Garvey have never spoken to anyone who is a member of any Garvey organization. Okay. Have you gone to the UNIA and talked to any of those members or any other existing Garvey organizations to see and check against what you searched on the internet to see if it's accurate? What y'all know about the fierce truth seeker is that the fierce truth seeker goes out and will do the field research. Okay. And again, the fierce truth seeker was a part of one of the Garvey movements. Okay. It was part of the ANCM, which was an outgrowth of the AMPM, headed by Carlos Cooks. Okay. The elders of the ANCM, or the elder rather, of the ANCM was part of Carlos Cooks's movement. Okay. And anybody who knows anything about Carlos Cooks was a part of the Garvey movement. Okay. Have anyone speaking on Marcus Garvey talked to any elders who were around during Garvey's time? Of course, by now, you know, there probably aren't any left now. I was in the ANCM back in the early 90s. Okay. I met Julius, okay, Marcus Garvey's son, talk with him. Okay. He's one of Garvey's sons. Okay. Have you? So you've got to start doing research, more thorough research. You know what I'm saying? When you research, you have to come from many different angles. You don't just do a little wiki click. Okay? Doesn't work that way. You got to cross reference with different books. You got to read books, at least. Read books, talk to people, do field research. A lot of people are accusing Garvey of being an agent simply due to him talking about Africa and repatriation and things of that nature, and saying that he was trying to take Aborigines off of their land, and you don't even have your chronology correct. Okay, there was no Aborigine ideology. Okay. There was no Aborigine ideology at that time. Okay. A lot of people see what's going on too is you have a lot of people who nowadays, because of this particular movement that has come up, they want so much to disassociate themselves from anything having to do with Africa or that has anything to do with Moors, um, that you have a complex. Okay, that's what it all stems from, and it's because many, and when I say you guys, I'm not necessarily talking about people in the chat right now. I'm talking to the larger group of people who have professed an Aboriginal ideology, and they have personal, prejudicial, miseducated, indoctrinated, and brainwashed issues about Africa. Okay, and but those are psychological issues that you must resolve. I can't help you with that. I can't help you with that. You need a doctor for that. Okay. Um, so, you know, a lot of you are talking about Africa this, Africa that, and you've never been to Africa. I've been to Africa. Okay. I've done fact finding. I've been to Africa on a fact finding mission. I lived there. Okay. So the fierce truth seeker has research, firsthand research, not just stuff that I heard somebody else say or I just read in a book. Okay. How many of you who profess to be Aborigines have ever been on a reservation? Most of you have never been on a reservation. Okay. Never been on a reservation. I've been on plenty. Okay. So I'm just saying that you all need to start being a little more efficient with your research. Okay. So we're going to stick with the time frame, and I promise we'll go 30 minutes. And rather than like I had been doing before, starting off with just answering questions in the comment section, I'm going to do the presentation. And if I can get to the comment section afterwards, then we'll do it that way. And whatever I don't get a chance to cover in this presentation, I will answer your questions in the next presentation, because that's how we wind up going over the hours over the time and things of that nature. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to address some of, because some people brought up some real good points in the last discussion on the whole Garvey thing, and I thought they were real good points to bring up in this presentation, which that presentation we went a long time. Or I also would like to let y'all know that if you were watching the last presentation that we did on Garvey, and you saw things cut out of that presentation, if y'all, whoever looked at it again, replayed it, it's not, that was not my decision. What happened was the YouTube took the video down, and they said it was there was a copyright infringement. Okay, because of the clip that I played of the Martin Luther King speech. Okay, the birth of that birth of a new nation. Okay, so I had to clip that. I had to clip that part. Hold on, my phone is ringing. Pardon me. Give me 1 second. My wife is outside, and I just have to make sure everything is okay. Hello? Alaikum salam. How you doing? Oh, you just got there. Okay. I told you. I told you it couldn't have been Clinton Washington. Mm-hmm. No, because you said Clinton Washington, and I told you the D train does not go there. Yeah, I told you that, but I told you the D train doesn't go there. I'm born in Brooklyn, right there, Clinton, Washington. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm born right there on Biggie Smalls's block is where I was born. So I trust me, I know the area. I'm not, you know. Yeah. Okay. I'm doing a live now. But yeah, let me know how you're making out, and we'll talk later. Okay, well, alaikum salam. Our announcer says it sounds good. Let's go. Yeah, I feel you, cuz. Yeah, it sounds good. Okay. So anyway, I apologize for that. I just like to make sure I pick up the phone when my wife is outside to make sure she's all right. Um, anyway, so what did I leave off saying? I left off at, let me see, what was I saying? Anyway, I don't remember where I left off at. That just threw me off. But anyway, so yeah, Fierce Truth Seeker has done field research, and you got to become more thorough and competent in your research. So there were some good points in the last presentation on Garvey. So I brought up a couple of points that of concern that people had in the comment section. Okay. So let's see here. So when you're doing your research on a topic, it's very important for you to Anunnaki Ilbe, you took MLK out. Yeah, I had to take it out because of a copyright infringement. So the video is back up. However, that part of Martin Luther King's speech is not on there. However, if you want to refer to that particular speech, then you can just look up Martin Luther King Birth of a New Nation speech. Okay. And you'll find it on YouTube. Okay. And in that particular speech, King is talking about quote unquote so-called black people emigrating to Africa to do business and things of that nature. Okay. And the point of putting up that particular video is because people talk about Martin Luther King and the whole Aborigine thing and this, that, and the other, which is fine. And yeah, we know we're Aborigines and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. However, at that time, there was no ideology like we have it today. Okay. And the focus of attention of most of our people was over toward the east. Okay. And you would have anyone who wasn't here from the beginning of the Marcus Garvey lecture, for the first 5 lectures before this one. You'll have to go back and look at those lectures to get caught up to speed in the stuff that we covered. Anyway, with that being said, so when you're doing your research, you have to be conscious of your timelines. Okay. People are saying things like, oh, uh, all that Africa stuff, it started with uh, 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 this person and that person, it started with Melville Herskowitz and, stuff like that. And no, it didn't. Sorry to bust your bubble, but it didn't. Okay. And that's why I said you have to look at the timeline of people, movements, and other things going on at those at different times. Okay, different eras. Okay, you can't take modern day ideologies and make them retroactive. So you have some people who feel that, there were outside influences who influenced these different leaders to come up with ideologies about Africa and civilization starting in Africa and things of that nature. But again, so someone brought up Melville Herskowitz. Okay. So now if you look at Melville Herskowitz, that's why I was asking, I wasn't trying to be an asshole, excuse my expression, when I asked, I think it was either Mac. Yeah, I think it was Mac when he brought up Melville Herskowitz. I think it was him, or was it the other guy? I think it was Mac. When I asked, well, So he said all that Africa stuff started with Melville Herskowitz. So I said, well, what's Melville Herskowitz's timeline for doing that? And he got offended. And I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just continuing the discussion from the last. I wasn't asking that to put you on the spot, and I wasn't trying to do it out of trying to challenge you or this, that, and the other. The reason why I asked is because if you look at the timeline, okay, Melville Herskowitz was born in 1895. Okay, and before 1895, there were people talking about Africa, and there were people who had back to Africa movements and talking about Africa and African centered things. So that's why I asked what was the timeline. Okay, Melville Herskowitz was born in 1895 and died in 1963. Okay, again, what I said in the last lecture is I'm just trying to sharpen you all up, and it's better for you to make your mistakes here than to go out in the world and make yourself look like a fool. Okay, like I always used to tell my students, okay, work when I was working in the educational system. Okay, make your mistakes here. Okay, so you want to look at your timelines. Okay, so then somebody else brought up the Royal African Society. Okay, so the Royal African Society, so that was another point that someone in the chat said, that the Africa stuff started with the Royal African Society. Nice. Very good. Very good. I don't see who brought that up. It was someone new. It was a sister who brought that up, and that was good. Brought up the Royal African Society. Now, the Royal African. So, well, actually, before I go into that, let me see. Let me just, because I don't like to just talk. So all you got to do is go to Britannica, okay? Check Encyclopedia Britannica, go on Britannica.com, and you type in Melville Herskowitz, and you'll see his timeline, okay? So I don't like to just talk. And so, you had Melville Herskowitz, you had also Franz Boas, okay, who he was affiliated with, okay, and Franz Boas was born in 1858 and died in 1952, okay. So then you had the Royal African Society, okay. Now, if you go on royalafricansociety.org, okay, I'll read to you from here. Give me 1 second. It says the Royal African Society was founded in 1901 in memory of Mary Kingsley. Wait, let me see if I have it in the email. Give me 1 second. If I could pull it up on the screen. for y'all. Let's see something here. Give me 1 second. This way y'all can see it. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Slash out. Slash. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just pulling it up. And let me share the screen. Okay, so now y'all should be able to see this on the screen. Okay. So it says here history. We're looking at the Royal African Society. Okay. So it says the Royal African Society was founded in 1901 in memory of Mary Kingsley, an English writer and ethnographer whose two trips to West Africa significantly shaped British perceptions of the continent. Kingsley, spake, Kingsley spoke frequently of a society that could bring together academics, friends, political figures, and traders with an interest in Africa. But the Africa Society, as it was originally called, did not become a reality until a year after her death in 1900. Since its inception, the Society's principal objective has been to foster a better understanding of Africa in the UK. That mission was inevitably interpreted, for better or worse, in the light of the prevailing assumptions of the time. In its early decades, its membership included many colonial officers, merchants, traders, businessmen, as well as academics and missionaries, some of whom, no doubt, reflected attitudes common at the time, which we would now consider paternalist, patronizing, and even racist, but also others who were to be instrumental in changing those same perceptions. Over time, the mission has remained broadly the same. The society has changed dramatically to become the inclusive Pan African membership organization that it is today. Okay, so, and then you scroll down, you see it gives their timeline. Okay, so as you can see here, it was founded in 1901. Okay, let me stop sharing here. Close that out. Okay, and then now, if you look at before that, if you go back and you want to do deeper research, you're going to see that before that, and also before, oh wait, hold on, for because I'm assuming everybody knows. So let me before I go back further, let me, because I didn't pull that, because there may be some people watching who may be new, who don't know anything about what we're talking about. Let me pull up other document here. 1 second. Second, I'm just pulling up this document. And I'm going to share this on the screen. Share screen. Share screen. Okay, by now, you all should be able to see here. So, Melville J. Herskovitz, okay, American anthropologist, born September 10th, 1895, died February 25th, 1963. Subjects of study: African American culture. Okay, so I'm pulling this up because some of you that are looking may not know who we're talking about. I'm just assuming. So, Melville Herskowitz, an American anthropologist noting for having opened up the study of New World Negro as a new field of research. Herskowitz was also known for his humanistic and relativistic writings on culture. Herskowitz took his PhD at the University of Chicago 1920 and his MA 1921 and PhD 1923 at Columbia University, where he came under the influence of Franz Boas. Herskowitz was a lecturer in anthropology at Columbia and Howard University before moving in 1927 to Northwestern University, where he remained until his death. In 1951, he was named there to be the first professional chair of African studies in the United States. From his initial studies, the African American as a physical type, Herskowitz was led to an interest in their social problems and to their cultural roots in Africa. He systemically attacked some widely held myths in The Myth of the Negro Past, 1941, and also opened up the assumption that Africa must follow the Western model and remain under the continuous direction of Europeans. Herskowitz also had interest in economics, especially in relation to anthropology and African folk art and music. His major works include The Economic Life of Primitive Peoples, 1940, Man and His Works in 1948, Franz Boas, and The Human Factor in Changing Africa, 1962. Okay. Then it says here, anthropology, the science of humanity, which studies human beings in aspects ranging from the biology and evolutionary history of Homo sapiens to the features of society and culture that decisively distinguish humans from other animal species. Because of the diverse subject matter it encompasses, anthropology has become, especially since the middle of the 20th century, a collection of more specialized fields. Physical anthropology is the branch that concentrates on biology and evolution of humanity. It is discussed in greater detail in the article Human Evolution. The branches that study the social and cultural constructs of human groups are variously recognized as belonging to cultural anthropology or ethnology, social anthropology, linguistic anthropology, and physical anthropology. See below. Archaeology, as the method of investigation of prehistoric cultures, has an integral part of anthropology since it became a self conscious discipline in the latter half of the 19th century. Okay, so I'm not going to read all of this here, okay? But the main point that I wanted to do was to give you the timeline, okay? Give you the timeline, okay? And here we have here, let me read a little further. The history of anthropology. The modern discourse of anthropology crystallized in the 1860s, fired by advances in biology, philology, and prehistoric archaeology. In The Origin of Species, 1859, Charles Darwin affirmed that all forms of life share a common ancestry. Fossils began to be reliably associated with particular geologic strata, and fossils of recent human ancestors were discovered, most famously for the first Neanderthal specimens unearthed in 1856. In 1871, Darwin published The Descent of Man, which argued that human beings shared a recent common ancestor with the great African apes. He identified the defining characteristic the defining characteristic of the human species as their relatively large brain size, and deduced that the evolutionary advantage of the human species was intelligence, which yielded language and technology. Pioneering anthropologist Edward Burritt, Burnett, Taylor concluded that as intelligence increased, so civilization advanced. All past and present societies could be arranged in an evolutionary sequence. Archaeological findings were organized in a single universal series: Stone Age, Iron Age, Bronze Age, etc., thought to correspond to stages of economic organization from hunting and gathering to pastoralism, agriculture, and industry. Blah, 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 blah. So here we have a time frame of the Darwinistic model in the mid to late 19th century. Okay, give me 1 second. And for those who want to pull this article up, just go to Britannica.com, https colon slash slash www.britannica.com/science/anthropology. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me get out of that. And also in that same on that same site for Melville Herskowitz, and because it may just take you to the general page of Britannica, but when you go to Britannica, just type in Melville J. Herskowitz, and all this information here will come up. Okay, let me stop sharing because I don't like to just talk. I like to produce the receipts and the information so that you can speak intelligently. Okay, so we have a timeline here of this. People are saying that, this whole Africa thing started with Melville Herskowitz and Darwin, Franz Boas, and all of this stuff. Okay, so if that be the case, then why is it that we have, and see, this is what I say also about when people just do little wiki searches or Google searches and they don't read books. See, the First Truth Seeker has this information up here. So, that's just from, many years ago. I had gotten knowledge of self back in the 80s. So a lot of this stuff I can just talk about. But because I'm dealing in the era of the internet and people want you to show the receipts and all, I can't just talk. People don't want to hear talk. So I have to give you the receipts, pull all this stuff up on the screen. Okay. So now people will say things like, all this stuff just started with them, blah, 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 not knowing that long before Garvey, long before them even, okay, Africa was still being talked about. And I told you, for those who are new, you have to go back to the earlier lectures that I did on Garvey, the first 5 lectures before this, when I told y'all that our people at that time were heavily influenced by the Bible and biblical history, okay, which is centered towards the East, okay? So then you had people who came among us who started with liberation theology and things of that nature, okay? And there was no Aboriginal ideology at that time. There were individuals who knew they, were Aboriginal and things of that nature. But I'm not talking about individuals here and there. I'm talking about schools of thought. Okay. And to prove what I'm saying in terms of our people being heavily influenced by the Bible, okay, that's not to say, again, that we are not Aboriginal in this, that, and the other. It's just, remember, like I told you before, our people went to sleep. Okay. Our people went to sleep. So, to further prove my point and what I'm saying, so now let's go back to, again, if you want a good reference where I got a lot of this information from, you get a book entitled Black Square and Compass. Okay. 200 Years of Prince Hall Freemasonry, I think is the subtitle, or something like that. Hold on, let me just look it up just to make sure. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. me see here. Yeah, that is the title. Black Square and Compass: 200 Years of Prince Hall Freemasonry by Joseph A. Jr. Walks. Walkes. Okay. I read that book a long time ago. Okay. And that's where I got a lot of this information that I'm presenting to you now. That's why when people come and I hear people talking about Garvey, he did this and he started this and that and the other. And I'm like, Lord, forgive the Great Spirit, forgive them for what they know not. you know, you have to do research. And you can't just read one book. You can't just read one book, and that book is excellent. You get damn near everything in that one book. See, I'm showing you how to streamline your research. I shouldn't even tell all my secrets. I told you the Fierce Truth Seeker has an archive, a serious archive. You know, those who know me personally know. Fierce Truth Seeker's got books upon books upon books. I got bookshelves and boxes. I got books in many different locations, at my place and even in other people's basements and stuff. I have so many books. I've thrown away just as many books as I've ever had. But yeah. So anyway, if you do further research, you're going to come across the Free African Society. Okay? Do your research on the Free African Society. Okay? And this is long before Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey wasn't even a thought at this time. Marcus Garvey's parents weren't even a thought at this time, nowhere near born. Okay? Maybe not even his grandparents. That's how far back this goes. Okay, it was Garvey. Let me see. Garvey in the late 1800s. Yeah, Garvey's born in the late 1800s. So his parents would be about, say, generation 30 years before that. Yeah, even long before his grandparents. Okay, so we're looking at now Free African Society. And I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to pull it up on the screen, but I'm going to read excerpts from it, okay, that I have in my notes. So, Free African Society, okay, founded by Richard Allen and Absalom Jones, okay. Allen was a qualif was as I'm sorry, Allen was qualified as a preacher in 1784. Whoa, 1784 at the Christmas conference. The founding of the Methodist Church in North America, in Baltimore, Maryland. He was one of the two black attendees of the conference, along with Harry Heuser, but neither could vote during deliberations. Allen was then allowed to head services at 5 a.m., which were attended mostly by blacks. Eschewing Asbury and Heuser's circuit riding practices, he moved to Philadelphia, a center of free blacks. In 1786, Allen became a preacher at St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but was restricted to early morning services. As he attracted more black congregants, the church vestry ordered them to be in a separate area for worship. So our people couldn't worship with the pale folk. They had to go into a separate area. Allen regularly preached on the commons near the church, slowly gaining a congregation of nearly 50 and supporting himself with a variety of odd jobs. Allen and Absalom Jones, also a Methodist preacher, resented the white congregation's segregation of blacks for worship and prayer. They decided to leave St. George's to create independent worship for African Americans. That brought some opposition from the white church as well as the more established blacks of the community. In 1787, Allen and Jones, hold on, let me scroll up a little bit. In 1787, note the timeline. Note the timeline. 1787, okay? No Marcus Garvey at this time. No Booker T. Washington at this time, okay? This is in the 1700s. Allen and Jones led the black members out of St. George's Methodist Church. They formed the Free African Society, FAS, a non-denominational mutual aid society that assisted fugitive slaves and new migrants to the city. Okay, so how are they forming a Free African Society in 1787, and Melville Herskowitz, Franz Boas, and these guys are nowhere near even born yet? Okay, again, so I say pay attention to your timeline. You can't just spit out information just randomly because you saw it on a meme or it sounded good when somebody was talking this stuff in a video. You can't do that. Okay, so says here, Allen, along with Absalom Jones, William Gray, and William Wiltshire, found an available lot on 6th Street near Lombard. Allen negotiated a price and purchased this lot in 1787 to build a church, but it was years before they had a building, now occupied by Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. It is the oldest parcel of real estate in the United States that got cut off here, but that's not essential to the topic. That's just some for your information history. What is important here is the timeline. Okay, 1787. Okay, we have Allen and Jones forming a Free African Society. And they had a large following. So what happened to the Aborigines at this time? Okay, again, that philosophy didn't exist at that time. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to have to cut it because we're way over the 30-minute mark. It's hard to do this stuff in just a half an hour or even an hour. We're over an hour now. So I know there's a lot of comments in the comment section. I'm not going to be able to get to them because of the time. And also, I have to keep this in a certain time frame for the show. So I'll end with the last comment here, and then I'm gonna have to uh, close it out, and then I'll take a look at all of the comments that are here, and just like I did with the last lecture, I'll get a chance to talk about some of that stuff in the next presentation. And even there may be a couple from the last presentation that I didn't get a chance to go. Oh, here's another thing too. Luckily, I looked at some of the comments from the last presentation before YouTube took it down, and I had to repost because when I reposted it, for some reason the chat doesn't show. So I'm not able to get all of what was in the chat from the last presentation, but I did remember some of them. Some of the questions and comments stood out, and I remembered them. So let's see. So it says here, did they erase indigenous spirituality and in its place set up Christianity? Yeah, well, you got to remember, Christianity was enforced on our people, you know, and that was the religion of the day. Even today you go on a lot of reservations, and Firebird can co-sign on this. A lot of those people are Christian, even up until this day. you know Unfortunately, but that's just the reality of it. you know but I thank everyone who joined in, and until the next time, do da da, the huh e.